Good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the November 23rd, 2020 meeting of the Montgomery County Election Board. Note the presence of all three members, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I will start with making a motion to approve the October 30th, 2020 minutes of the board. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Arkoosh. Any board comment? All right, hearing none, we can move to a vote. Are there any negative votes? Okay, minutes are passed. I'd like to start with some opening comments. Good afternoon. Thank you to everyone for being here. I want to start by saying thank you to everyone who made this year's election possible. Every election, we rely on our county staff to supplement our small but mighty voter services staff to conduct the primary and general elections. This year, we had a presidential election, a pandemic, new mail-in balloting, and election code changes, all of which required hundreds of people to assist before, during, and after Election Day. So I want to recognize our county staff who stepped up to help us achieve our goal of operating nonstop until all votes were counted. For the 2020 general election, we had 266 people working the 24-hour mail-in operation. In addition, there were 43 tabulators who worked to reconcile and certify the in-person election results, and another 3,104 poll workers working at 298 unique polling locations across the county. I also want to thank the numerous county departments who played a role in this election. Specifically, I want to thank our Voter Services Office for handling thousands of residents' questions and inquiries over the past few months by phone, email, in person, and on social media. And because of the dedication of our county team, 279,956,000 mail-in ballots were processed, and 243,408,000 mail-in ballots were returned, giving us a return rate of 86.96%. Just round that up to 87%. In addition, we enabled over 265,000 people to cast their vote in person safely and securely during the COVID-19 pandemic. All in all, we counted 513,395 votes in Montgomery County, representing an 84% voter turnout. So I want to thank everyone again who made this possible. And with that, I'd like to see if any of my colleagues have comments.
I would just like to add my thanks to our amazing county workforce who just went above and beyond for this entire election. And I also want to thank the many, many people that volunteered. We had people from both parties really step up. We could not have conducted this election without them. And I so appreciate the care and concern and compassion that people had for our entire community. As all of you know, so many of our typical poll workers are older individuals who are retired, so they're able to work that day at the polls. But those individuals were understandably fearful about working during a pandemic. And in just, it almost felt like a blink of an eye, except it took way more work than that. We were able to replace all of those people with other individuals who felt comfortable and able to spend that day at the polls. So this is really what democracy is all about. It is our entire community coming together to help each other out in the furtherance of a very well-conducted general election. And I just want to thank everyone as well.
Commissioner Gale? Okay. All right, we will move on now to public comment on agenda items, which is limited to 2 minutes. Mr. Stein.
Yes, thank you very much. Speakers who are in attendance here must come to the podium if they are physically able. All speakers should identify themselves by name and municipality. All public comments must be relevant or germane to election board business. Under the law, this means that the subject matter of all comments must be limited to items or issues which are currently before the election board for consideration, or which may come before the election board for consideration at a future meeting. Whether a matter is germane to election board business is a determination to be made by the county solicitor. Profane, slanderous, or discriminatory language or comments will not be tolerated in accordance with the county's non-discrimination policy. Time limit of 2 minutes will be monitored, and county staff will respectfully request speakers to conclude their comments if the speaker goes beyond the time allotted. The election board is not required to respond to public comments during the course of the meeting, so the public is reminded that this is not an opportunity for dialogue or questions and answers. The election board chair may direct appropriate county staff to follow up on any questions or additional comments after the meeting. Disruptive behavior, including but not limited to yelling from the seats, arguing about whether a matter is germane to election board business once the solicitor has made a determination on such, or refusing to yield the floor once time has elapsed and being requested to sit down, shall be grounds for removal from the meeting without further admonishment or warning, or for those participating electronically, they will be muted and not permitted to make further comment. That is all.
Okay. Do we have anyone for public comment on agenda items?
No, it does not appear that we do.
Okay, and do we have any general public comment?
We do seem to have some general public comment.
Ashley Goldstein.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. And I will let, just so you know, you have a 2-minute time limit. I will give you warnings at the 1 minute, 1 minute and 30 second mark, and 1 minute and 50 second mark.
Okay.
Maybe.
Hi, commissioners. My name is Ashley Goldstein. I am speaking here today because I have yet to receive one email response from anyone on the board. I've emailed every single day. I live in Drescher. I have a 5-year-old kindergartner in the Upper Dublin School District. And I just wanted to let you know that today my son can do basically everything except go to school. He can go inside a restaurant without a mask on and eat inside. He can go shop at.
Ms. Goldstein, you've been muted. I'm going to let you know that your comments have to be relevant to election board business. This is not a Board of Health meeting, nor is it even a commissioners meeting. So if you do not have any comments relevant to election board matters, then you will not be able to speak. Unmute her.
I don't appreciate no response to emails and being constantly muted. This is supposed to be a democracy. How am I supposed to get anyone to reply to me or listen
Ms.
as a
Goldstein,
tax-paying citizen? How? Let me know how.
business.
I would love to know how.
Right, Ms. Goldstein, if you don't have any comments relevant to election board business, then that would conclude your comments.
Okay, do we have any other comments related to election board business?
Yes.
We will now unmute Debbie Leonetti.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, my name is Debbie Leonetti. I live in Collegeville, Pennsylvania, obviously. I was a poll worker in June for the primary and also for the general election on November 3rd. First of all, I'd like my full record of my statement to be reflected in your minutes. Would that be all right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. There's a couple things. I also sent you guys an email this morning, all three of you, about my concerns about certifying this election today. As you can, I'm sure that you know, there's been lots of voter fraud. I witnessed a bunch of things at the polls. I've sent in emails. No one gets back to me. There were the mail-in ballots I saw in June were going to be a mess. You could just tell there's no way to verify all that stuff. We were told no signatures had to match. There was just too many reasons and too many opportunities for fraud to happen. I can tell you about a specific situation that happened at my poll at Skipback 3. Now, we were all told the rules as poll workers. I was the majority inspector, that if someone ordered a mail-in ballot, we had to check the supplemental list that was on the side first, and that was supposedly mail-in ballots that were received by the county. Then if they were not listed there, go to the poll book and find their name in the poll book. If in the poll book next to their signature, it said mail-in ballot requested, give provisional, we were supposed to either get their mail-in ballot, they had to have it with them in full, they had to surrender it, sign an affidavit with the judge of elections, and then they could vote regular. If they came in and they did not surrender their ballot, they were supposed to go and get a provisional ballot. My judge of elections allowed one person to go through, and I stopped him afterwards and I said, that is incorrect. The directions were chaotic, it was confusing. So if one person got through my poll, they got through other polls too. You were allowing the ballots to be accepted as of 8 p.m. November 3rd. So the entire day of election, somebody could have stuck a ballot in the box, would not be listed on the supplement, and they could come to the poll and vote. Did you all check all that?
Leonetti, your time is up.
Okay, is there any other general public comment?
We have at least two more.
Okay,
Next is Kaitlin Derstine.
Hi, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kaitlin Derstine. I'm from Telford, Pennsylvania. I'm just calling in to say that when I went to my polling place, they did not ask for any identification, nothing with my photo on it, nothing of that sort. And that to me was very alarming. Then, you know, to find out, I mean, identification should involve having a photo ID to prevent fraud. Then on top of that, to hear that poll watchers were not allowed, specifically Republican poll watchers, were not allowed to view these mail-in ballots is a complete, it's just fraudulent, basically, to say it abuses our rights, our constitutional rights to a free and fair election if bipartisan representation is not there to view each ballot that's coming through. So I would have thought that you guys would have had extra measures this year put in place to guarantee that with a system like mail-in balloting that has a history of fraudulent activity, that you would go to extra measures to make sure that these things are not happening, that fraud is not in place. But it felt the exact opposite. And from everything we can see, there's close to 450,000 ballots so far in Pennsylvania alone that have not been seen by bipartisan poll watchers. They should all be thrown out. If it's not seen, it's against the constitutional rights to a free and fair election. So I think to say that you guys did a bang up job on this year is pretty sad. I think we have a lot to work on, and we definitely need an audit in Pennsylvania for sure.
Thank you.
thank you. Next,
Next is Barbara Furman.
Hello,
Hello, yes, please go ahead.
my name is Barbara Furman. I'm from Gilbertsville, PA, New Hanover Township. And I actually put in a concern. I don't know if it's an email. I questioned the fact that we've used the mail-in ballot twice now. In the primary and the general election. In the primary, there were about 75,000 ballots, and it took a month to get those results. And at that time, the MCRC was told that it had to be done better in the general election. Now we have 244,000 mail-in ballots, and if there wasn't equal watching of counting those ballots, then how can a citizen be assured that there is equal protection of our rights for a free and fair election? So we should be questioning and making sure that we audit all of these mail-in ballots and make sure that there is proper identification of the voter and that there was no ballot harvesting. We cannot be comfortable with that and just feel like we need to make sure that we have an audit. Thank you.
all right, thank you. Is there any other public comment?
We're gonna, Elie Fares.
Yeah, hi. I'm a resident in Balakinwood, and I just wanted to say that I'm thankful for all the work that the election board did for this election, and that this is not a QAnon live stream, so conspiracy theories should just be left to one person's own, thoughts and not expressed in such a public forum. I'm very grateful for the integrity of this election and for all the hard work that everyone has done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
No, there's no other public comment.
All right, so we will move on to our next agenda item, which is certification of the 2020 general election. Mr. Marlette.
Good afternoon. Pursuant to section 2642 of the Pennsylvania Election Code, the state is required to certify the results of the general election by the third Monday following any election. Today, November 23rd, 2020 is the third Monday, and the Department of State is therefore required to certify today. Last week, the canvass of the mail-in and in-person elections were completed, and it was announced that the canvass and computation of the November 3rd general election was closed and the count was made final. Barring a timely filed petition with the Montgomery County Court of Common Pleas, the Montgomery County Board of Elections may now vote to certify the election and send the results to the Department of State for its final certification today. At the time of this meeting, there have been no petitions filed with the Court of Common Pleas. You were each presented with two separate computations for board approval this afternoon. The first set of computations contains all ballots that we were able to count from the following categories: election day ballots, provisional ballots, military and overseas ballots, and civilian and mail-in ballots received by 8 p.m. on November 3rd. This first set of computations is what we are providing to the Department of State to be included in their certification today. The second set of computations contains all ballots from that first set and any civilian and absentee and mail-in ballots received between November 4th, 2020 and November 6th, 2020 that were postmarked prior to November 3rd or had no postmark or an illegible postmark, as well as any other mail-in or absentee ballots that are still subject to litigation. This second set of computations is being provided to the Department of State to be used only if these outstanding ballots are able to be included in the official count at some point in the future.
Okay, I will make a motion to certify the results of the November 3rd, 2020 general election to the Pennsylvania Department of State. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Arkoosh. Are there any questions for Mr. Marlette? Okay, so before we take the vote, I would like to make a comment on the certification of the 2020 general election. This year, we face numerous legal challenges aimed to prevent our residents from having their ballots cast, unlike anything we have faced in previous elections. There were 14 challenges to provisional ballots cast on election day. At a hearing before the Board of Elections, the Republican Party, which raised 10 of those challenges, withdrew them all. There were 4 challenges from the Democratic Party asking the board to count ballots that otherwise would not have been given credit. These challenges were all upheld in part or in full by the board. None of the board's decisions were appealed to the Court of Common Pleas. So I want to thank our solicitor's office for their dedication for making sure every vote in Montgomery County was counted. Every legally cast vote, no matter if you decided to cast your vote in person or if you cast it by a mail-in ballot. And once again, I want to commend our poll workers and all the county staff for their tireless work over these past few weeks and months. And I will be voting to certify this election to make sure that the over 500,000 Montgomery County citizens who took the time to vote in this election to make sure that their votes are counted. And with that, I'd like to see if any of my colleagues have any comments. Okay, hearing none.
Commissioner Lawrence, I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Due to widely publicized irregularities, ongoing litigation, and the massive number of unverified mail-in ballots cast this year, I will not be voting to certify Montgomery County's 2020 general election results. As Montgomery County Commissioner and Vice Chair of the Election Board, I have been advising voters all year long to cast their ballots in person on election day. For decades, it has been well understood and accepted that mail-in ballots are not only more prone to fraud, but more likely to cause legitimate votes to go uncounted. In fact, in 2005, the Commission on Federal Election Reform, chaired by former Democrat President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker, found that mail-in ballots, quote, remain the largest source of potential voter fraud. Even the left-leaning New York Times admitted in 2012 that there is a bipartisan consensus that voting by mail is, quote, more easily abused than other forms of voting. And, quote, votes cast by mail are less likely to be counted, more likely to be compromised, and more likely to be contested than those cast in a voting booth. However, in 2019, despite the well-documented problems and concerns with mail-in voting, Republicans in the Pennsylvania State House and State Senate joined with Democrat Governor Wolf to pass Act 77, Pennsylvania's mail-in voting law, which allows for 50 days of no excuse mail-in voting. This disastrous legislation has not only paved the way for ballot counting, this ballot counting fiasco we are currently enduring, but also destroyed the integrity of our entire election process. As mentioned, Act 77 allows for 50 days of mail-in voting. That is the longest vote by mail period in the entire nation. Frankly, nobody should be voting nearly 2 months before Election Day. After all, it's called Election Day for a reason, not election week, not election month, but Election Day. Act 77, which I repeat was passed by Harrisburg Republicans and signed into law by Democrat Wolf, eliminates the requirement that a voter have a valid reason for requesting a ballot, such as a physical disability or an out-of-town obligation that prevents said voter from casting a ballot in person. Instead, Act 77 permits no excuse mail-in voting. The enactment of Act 77 led to approximately 2.8 million votes submitted by mail statewide this November. That is over 10 times more mail-in votes than were cast in the 2016 presidential election. In fact, here in Montgomery County, over 244,000 votes were cast by mail. That represents over 47% of the total vote. To make a bad law even worse, just days before the election, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruled that mail-in ballots could not be rejected on the basis of signature verification. Signature verification is a common sense safeguard against election fraud. Now that mail-in ballots have been removed and separated from their respective envelopes, which included the signature box, even if we were to go back and try to verify signatures, it is impossible to determine which votes are legitimate and which are illegitimate. Therefore, we are in a situation where there is no way to know the authenticity of nearly half of the votes cast this year. As such, I cannot in good conscience vote today to certify Montgomery County's 2020 general election results. Based on the actions of Republicans in the state legislature, Democrat Governor Tom Wolf, and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, all 67 counties across the Commonwealth are suffering electoral uncertainty as the nation awaits the outcome of the presidential race. I believe that the United States Supreme Court should review the travesty that has occurred in Pennsylvania and take appropriate action to ensure that only legal votes are counted and included in both Montgomery County and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's official election results. That concludes my comments.
Any other comments? All right, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Chair Lawrence,
Aye.
Vice Chair Gale,
Opposed.
Commissioner Arkoosh.
Aye.
Okay, the election is certified by a 2-to-1 vote. Are there any closing board comments? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to adjourn the November 23rd, 2020 meeting of the Montgomery County Board of Elections. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Arkoosh. Any board comment? Hearing none, are there any negative votes? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.